Welcome to episode 161 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's episode, I chat about how to make sponsor campaigns great again.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, who crafts most of these intros in airport lounges, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. You are listening to the Sports Geek podcast, and I do craft most of DJ Joel's intros in airport lounges. I have been traveling recently. You are listening to the Sports Geek podcast. You're doing so either on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, or my favourite podcast app, Pocket Casts. I know from the stats that you don't listen to it on Pocket Casts, but that's okay. I still love Pocket Casts as an app. As always, you can contact me, Sean, at sportsgeekhq.com. I recorded this interview on a quick trip up to Vancouver, where I caught up with Lenny and Darshan and the whole Tradable Bits team, as well as a couple of catch-ups with former guests Adam Rootman from the Whitecaps and Kevin Kinghorn from the Canucks. And so I wanted to have this sit-down with Lenny to talk about what we're doing with Sports Geek campaigns. So spoke to Lenny, and he was my roommate buddy at South by Southwest earlier this year on episode 142. If you want to go back and sort of look at what our thoughts were on South by Southwest, you can go back to that episode. But this one, we really dive in on the Tradable Bits and Lenny's background in getting to Tradable Bits, but then also what is Sports Geek Campaigns, how does it work, and how it can help you and your team drive more digital revenue. So here is my chat live from Vancouver with Lenny Go from Tradable Bits. Very happy to be here in downtown Vancouver at the offices of Tradable Bits, catching up with my good friends here at Tradable Bits, and I've got former guest, former South by Southwest roommate, Lenny Go from Tradable Bits. Welcome back to the podcast, mate.
Well, thanks for having me, Sean.
Well, thanks for having me. Here in sunny Vancouver, I guess we probably want to. This is the reason for the podcast. We're going to discuss, I guess, why I'm here and what we've been doing over the last, day and a half in brainstorming a few things. For those of you who have been listening to the podcast, I've obviously been using Tradable Bits for a while, and we've been bouncing around this idea of Sports Geek campaigns, and we've sort of been brainstorming that, doing some content, some marketing collateral for it today. And I guess getting ready for a proper launch. It's been in beta for a while.
Yeah.
And it's been a productive day so far.
Yeah, I feel like it's Talladega Nights, getting a little shake and bake action here.
It is a little bit of that. So before we sort of get into the how it works, why it works, what we're going to do, I want to sort of go back a little bit, because in our South by Southwest sort of recap, we sort of just dove in and recapped South by, which was fun. But what I want to do is get a bit more background about you, about Tradable Bits. We've obviously had Darshan on the podcast previously. We went and caught up with Adam from the Whitecaps for lunch, so it's been a good couple of days in Vancouver. But give the listeners who didn't get it in our first chat, give them a little bit of a background of your history, and your background with Tradable Bits.
Awesome. Well, been working in digital for a number of years now, kind of backtracking to my degree in communications before all sorts of social media was around.
Yep.
And it was basically rolling out from there. I worked in e-commerce for Best Buy Canada, so I kind of cut my teeth in digital there. I got to see the wild, wild west of e-commerce in 2006 to about 2010. After that, I kind of saw a window of opportunity to kind of move towards social media.
Yep.
And I saw that as kind of like the next wave of marketing and opportunities that kind of came out of that. So I went back to school and did some digital courses and kind of learned a little bit of everything around building a website and digital, working with teams and all sorts of content and creation and imagery and different things like that. So rolling out of that, I got lucky in my first role. Kevin Kinghorn, which was the fun fact from last time, hooked me up with an internship at with the Vancouver Canucks during the 2011 playoffs. So for me, lifelong hockey fan, Vancouver Canucks fan, little dream come true. Got to sit through the Stanley Cup playoffs and see what it's like riding behind the team and everything goes along with it.
Especially that, that digital wave, and it's sort of the stuff that I discussed with Kevin on the pod, sort of seeing how things happen behind the scenes. So then when did you join Tradable Bits? What attracted you to Tradable Bits? Tell us that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So after that, I actually got a chance to social media and digital marketing manager with a couple different startup companies in Vancouver. One was a neat company called Recon Instruments, which eventually got purchased by Intel. It was a wearable technology company where they started out making ski goggles with a heads-up display in them, and then it eventually ported over to glasses. And then I went to another startup called Indochino, which was custom suits online, again, kind of in the e-commerce space.
Yep.
But what was really neat about that is when I joined Indochino, I got a chance to try all sorts of different things in digital marketing. And it so happened that I needed a tool to generate leads and drive contesting and all sorts of things. And I stumbled upon Tradable Bits, being a local Vancouver company. So a couple of years later, I reconnected with Darshan again and saw how much more the platform had evolved. And for me, when we got down to connecting, he kind of offered me an opportunity to join the team in business development, especially around working with sports and entertainment. And he showed me how much the platform had come along. So it started out as a Facebook contest company, but we really evolved into a fan data platform. And being that opportunity for me to be able to sell and work with people who I did their jobs before, I kind of put myself in those shoes and being like, I wish I had Tradable Bits as a platform. It would have made my job so much easier.
Yep.
Everything combined in one platform, understanding fan data, how to better target and personalize all your marketing efforts in digital. So I saw that as a huge opportunity of what people could be doing in sports and entertainment, and especially with limited resources, having a tool that does all the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah. So, so that's where I guess we gave a bit of the backstory of my relationship with you guys. Met you a couple of years ago via the Seek conference and helped resell Tradable Bits into the Australian market. And where I've been working with teams is that, I've been spending a lot of my time with the digital teams, and that's where I've been, working with them around how they're framing their content, how they're hitting up different audiences, and then I'm spending more and more of my time in the ticketing and season ticket and membership side, and also the sponsorship side, trying to understand digital as a product, how to sell digital, where the data play comes in. And that's where I was attracted to Tradable, in that it's, great from driving these campaigns, different variations of the campaigns, but then the really rich data piece. And, where the idea, and this is where we're sort of had backwards and forwards, some late nights, a lot of Skype calls, a lot of messages in the Sports Biz Slack in trying to figure out, where it fits. And it pretty much comes from, I guess, the test case and the minimum viable product that we sort of did at the FFA in, that light bulb moment of talking to the sales guys, the commercial guys, the ones working with the partnerships. And they said, oh, yeah, we did this campaign. It was done by an external agency, and it ran for 6 months, and it got it got 200 entries. And I was quizzing them because here I was working with the FFA across a bunch of different projects. I hadn't heard of this campaign. It hadn't even come up on my radar. And I said, well, who did it? And they said, oh, an external agency did it. And I said, how much did the sponsor, did the partner, in this case it was PlayStation, how much did they pay? And they said, oh, $60,000. And I, I'm like, didn't anyone question $60,000, 200 entries? I'm like, that's terrible. Like, it's terrible, from a results point of view. And so that was sort of the genesis of, well, hang on, we can do a better job. There should be a way to effectively, it's that agency, sports as an agency model to say, hey, we can pitch and get that work. Because I knew you guys. I said Tradable's a really, can do that user-generated campaign and collect all the fan data, and they were really doing that. They were doing that. They were getting all this user-generated, but they weren't doing the voting component. They weren't getting all the fans to vote, so they weren't getting that extra layer of data.
Exactly, and it's a kind of a unique way that we've gone about doing it by collecting social data. It's not just a junk email anymore, which we know email, you have to opt in to be able to communicate with them. Half the time it's a junk email.
Yep.
With a lot of contests and things like that. So, and on top of that, once you do communicate, what's a great open rate? Like 30%.
Yeah.
So like how many people are actually clicking out of that 30% after? So the opportunity with Facebook, and we've been able to see all the types of ROI around it, is creating the better quality audiences, friend relationships, targeting that's more personalized, that's on message to whatever it is in the campaign that they might have participated in, and then really understanding behavior. If they voted on a certain player that's their favorite, or they got to choose between one thing or the other, we know exactly what that preference is, and then it becomes more contextual in the next level of communication. And that's ultimately the goal behind Tradable Bits, is to make things more personalized.
Yeah, so the difference was, rather than just saying, here's a cool tool, which Tradable Bits is, hey, you can do these campaigns and you could do this competition, and just say, oh, here's the price of Tradable Bits and then we'll charge it on. Well, because we knew that the sponsor was paying a certain amount of money to get a campaign, we said, can we provide a comparable campaign and charge the same amount of money, and not engage the agency?
Yeah.
And that was
ultimately get better value for the sponsor.
And that was the pitch. So we knew the price that they were currently paying. We pitched them 2 campaigns, not one. We gave them a bit of a social hub that collated a bunch of the chatter that was happening around the grassroots play, and then we gave them the campaign. The important bit was we took some money in that budget from an ad point of view, and my team did all the execution, because like a lot of teams, if they didn't have a whole bunch of people ready to jump up and down to build out a campaign, because they were stretched doing their own content piece. And so we pitched it to the sponsor. We deliberately undercut the previous agency because we knew their price. And we rolled out those campaigns. And in essence, the FFA was able, as the rights holder, made $20,000 profit on that campaign, because they weren't paying that agency middle management, and they priced the digital activation appropriately. And so for me, that was the light bulb moment.
Absolutely.
The complete light bulb moment from a sponsor point of view. And there's very much the tendency, and being in the previous spot of, selling licenses of your product or helping other products get in, they just go, oh, that's the price of the product. Let's just add a little bit more and pass it on to the sponsor. And it's like, well, hang on. You need to reframe it to say, what would they pay to build a bespoke user-generated content collecting data? And they went to an agency, they would go and buy another tool, or they would build it from scratch. Mm-hmm. And the price would be in that $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 range. And so that's the opportunity. So Sports Geek Campaigns is, it's a partnership between, and that's, we've been hammering out contracts and logistics and all of that kind of situations. There's a lot of whiteboard sessions that have been done over the last couple of days, because it's been Leanne and I bouncing around, but it's been good to flesh out all the processes around that with the Tradable Bits team. But primarily, it's a managed campaign service. You don't have to go and commit or ask for any more resources from a digital point of view. So we don't go and put this strain on the digital team to deliver sponsorship. And then the piece is that I think, works is helping the sponsorship team sell the digital pieces, because they just don't know what they're worth. So, that's pretty much it. It's how it can work together, and also how the campaigns need to be integrated into the content piece.
Absolutely. So it's all fully unified. I think it's a beautiful partnership when we started talking about it. Not all clients can just take a piece of technology and be able to turn it and make use of it. It takes a little while. You kind of have to have that unicorn client that really knows or has the resources and everything all the way across the board. So to bring your level of expertise and what you've seen with all the different types of clients that you work with across different sports, all globally, and then from our expertise from the level of the technology that we need to execute on the different types of campaigns, and ultimately, how can you be smarter around designing a campaign to collect data? That's where our partnership works so well, by giving this sort of resource to the teams to be able to execute for something better for a sponsor, but ultimately help that digital team build the content around it to really promote it. And I think that's what is starting to resonate with some of the people we've talked with.
Yeah. So I guess the how it works is probably a good way to explain it. And then we can sort of explain some of that. Hey, here's the really key sales pieces. So from a how it works point of view and sort of where do I fit, where does Tradable Bits fit, who does what type of thing, I think we can explain it quite well. The first thing is just get me on a call. Like, because what we need to do is understand what your landscape looks like, what you know, what you value your content at, what you value your social and digital assets at. Understanding that knows how far along. And most of the time, people who think they're a long way away from doing it aren't that far away. And it is a matter of just going, well, if we tweak this and put some values against these things, we're not far away from the building blocks. So that's the first thing, just the initial call. And I'm happy to have initial calls with anybody that's listening to the podcast or anyone that's in Sports Biz Slack. Because once I know where your strengths and weaknesses lie, then we can say, oh, this is what we need. Whether it's potentially some help from me up front, but then once you get to a point where it's like, oh, we are going to build out this playbook of all these different campaigns that you can run, and this is what you sell them for, and this is what they're valued, it becomes far easier, and we end up in that sales training space. And just if you've got a good sales team, you'll have no problems.
Absolutely. You don't want to have to wait another season to try and say, oh, yeah, next year's initiative, we need to get this playbook and put that. And there's so many other initiatives going on right now. Why not have a quick consultation and be able to see how we can help you move forward faster?
Yeah, so that's the first bit. Have a chat with me, and I get a lay of the land to say, this is where you need help. This is how I can help you. But the first phase is let's refine your pitch. Let's review the pitch deck, or let's at least review the sponsors you currently have. Like one of the key ones is which sponsor that you've currently got did something in digital that sort of fell flat. Let's fix that problem first, because you're coming from a point of, oh, well, we all know that didn't work. Here's 3 ideas we'd like to do in-house with our team, with our data, with our social assets. I think that's really valuable. I think they're the easiest ones to win. That was what the minimum viable product was. They were spending $60,000 over there. We went and asked them for $55,000. And the thing is, that's new revenue. Like, this is the piece. It's not, oh, we're not going into the revenue you're currently getting. This is the digital activation revenue that potentially you're not acquiring now.
Yeah, I mean, what sponsorship team doesn't want to see more profit?
Exactly.
Really?
So it's first in that space of let's review your current offer to market. How can we make some changes and put some prices on it to get you to push that out to market? The next piece is the ideation around that, the different kinds of ideas that you might want to tweak for specific sponsors.
Yeah, and it's a little more than just here's a campaign and it's a playbook and that's a price. It's so much more understanding what the sponsor wants as part of the value. Are they looking for awareness? Are they looking for engagement? Are they looking for something else? Then we can help design a campaign or pick something from the playbook that is really going to be like, oh, this will resonate perfectly for Lowe's or Ford or whoever it might be, and make sure that it's hitting all the singing notes from what the sponsor needs.
Yeah. So in the pitch and getting the pitch, you get me. Right, and you get me on a per campaign basis on, hey, we want to refine this. Then when you're in that idea mode of, hey, we've got a sponsor that wants this and they've got this kind of audience and they want this kind of stuff, that's where you also get me. And that's with me working with the sponsorship team, also quizzing the content guys and the content team, the people producing the content, to say what fits with this, what can we plug and play into this proposal to help them fill out the building blocks on how they would put those deals together. And then so once those deals are done and they say, yes, we want that cool bracket content piece, that bracket challenge is going to have 16, it's going to go run over 3 weeks and people are going to vote, right, which is a cool component available in Tradable Bits. But we've organised with the content guys that there's going to be 16 videos. And there's going to be a bespoke Instagram series that's done off that. Oh, and it's going to be talked about on the podcast and potentially on the television broadcast or whatever. So you've gone and taken a campaign and built it up to be so much more.
Yep. Because just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come. So you're surrounding it to make sure it's successful. We've got all the content pieces around it.
Yep.
We've got the ads that can go around it to help promote it, along with all these other pieces that are getting out to all the real fans.
Yeah. So the thing that I love working with content team, I keep saying guys, and it's just using a generic team. There's plenty of women out there that are doing it. It's something I should correct myself. So content teams, in that, people are doing the execution, the content side, they're doing great content. And so what I want to do is help them do more of that and not have them bogged down in the campaign execution and the ad execution that's required for that. So that's the piece that we take that. We just get the assets that are required from a graphics point of view, from the sponsor point of view, the copy. We produce all of that. We get it all signed off. As a team, you still sign it off. You say, yes, we're okay. The sponsor signs it off. We build out the campaign. We get it installed. We work in step with the digital team to make sure, hey, we've been running the ads for 5 days. This is the one that's going to have the biggest pop. This is the one that gets posted. Those kind of things, which we've been working with the team here around the ad stuff. So there's no extra resources there. The campaigns will get run. The reports will be delivered. There'll be a nice report at the end the sponsor gets. It says, this is how many people saw it. This is how many people entered. This is the audiences, those kind of things that we showed this campaign to.
And this is the opportunity that you can use with the data after.
Exactly. And then that becomes as much as the campaign itself is a really good, would you like fries, with your standard sponsor sort of offer. Oh, here it is. And would you like fries, the digital activation piece? And then once you've done the digital activation piece, you have another one that says, oh, we've got some really rich data. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to now push an offer? And this is where I think the campaigns can potentially grow, and from an offer point of view, is sort of leveraging that data piece, because
absolutely
that's the value piece in extracting that data out of your social fan bases.
Yeah, things we've been training a lot of our clients on is every campaign we have is a thank you page.
Yep.
There's something in action that can be driven off a thank you page. So if we're going to say, hey, there's an exclusive coupon for everyone that has entered this campaign, you can go back to your sponsor and say X amount of people, redeem this coupon code, so you can show there's real value in not only driving that contest, that next action, but something else after it too.
Yeah, and so that's where
the design of this stuff working together in ideation is really key.
Yeah, and that's also where, from a report point of view, you give a richer picture of what happened.
Exactly.
Like, rather than saying, and again using the PlayStation example, like instead of 6 months, and you can download it. I'll put the links for the Money in Sport presentation where I presented it last year. We got 20 more entries, right? Instead of 200, we got 224. Now we ran it over 3 weeks, not 6 months, right? So if we would have run it longer, we might have got more. Then the other thing is we got 3,000 pieces of data, because we did the whole your friends have to vote you up and those kind of things. So we got stacks more data. But from a reporting back to the sponsor point of view, we were reporting the amount of social reach from the campaign, the reach from the ad campaign. And all of these numbers, rather than just saying 200, we went, we reached 250,000 people. This is how many people went to the website and viewed it. This is how many, getting that type of data in the report makes for a more compelling, because if you're just hanging your campaign on one result or on entries,
or one email, it's not enough.
It's not. It isn't enough. So that's the piece where with your guys' help, we produce that report, and then we give them access to the data to be able to say, yes, these are the people that opted in to get more information, that kind of stuff. So that's how it works, with no extra resources from your team, from a digital point of view, just pretty much signing it off, that kind of thing, which you potentially would be doing if an external agency was doing it. And the key is the sponsor team just has to sell it for, and we give it, sell it for more than the fixed cost that we're providing, to say this is what it costs for one campaign of this type. But the valuation, which I provide, I go and say, well, based on 2 Facebook posts, a video, a 4-post Instagram series, 3 web articles and an EDM, and a campaign that is promoted by ads, this is what it's going to be worth to a sponsor. So it should get you into that space of, well, there's new revenue there.
Absolutely. I think after coming out of Seat and kind of having informal surveys and just talking to a lot of people, everyone's kind of like, oh, rate card, but they're not thinking broader about, okay, the sponsorship team might be asking, it's like, oh, they just want 4 Facebook posts or this and that. Well, that's not how, you can't just have that.
Yeah,
social media is you can't just have those alone. It goes hand in hand with all these things together. It's like, there's a lot of teams that don't sell signage by itself. It has to be signage, print, radio, all these things. Well, you got to bundle digital together too.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that you bundle digital so it's successful.
And the thing is, the rate card question, which again, I think it's still a question as part art, part science. I think if you frame it correctly, it's not about the rate card. All right. Yes, the rate card is important. It gives you a baseline, and it gives you a baseline for your valuations. But there's going to be 2 types of sponsors that are in the market. There's going to be the sponsor that is digitally savvy and buying digital activations currently in market, either from you as a team or from an external agency or their own in-house people. And so they know what it costs to get something built. Hey, I want a mini site that captures 25 words or less with a nice video overplay background, whatever it is. If they go to an agency, they know what they're going to pay. They're going to pay $15,000, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 for that. And so those people, you're just pretty much pitching against that type of budget. Yes, they're still going to want the valuation piece and that kind of stuff, which, again, happy to provide to say this is the type of audience and engagement and impressions for the people that want that. But they're just really going, oh, we spent $60,000 here. We can spend $55,000 here for the same idea, just executed better. Well, then they will do that every time. So that's where the assessment kicks in. And so, when we're running the numbers of, what could it mean? I'm like, well, I'm quite confident that if you had 6 sponsors that are running a digital campaign and we appropriately price it, there's $300,000 that you can bring in to your team from a revenue point of view. Now, yes, it comes with costs, but, for the most part, with the most things from a valuation point of view and what we can sell it for compared to the cost we're delivering, you should be getting at least $150,000 clean revenue, clean profit
Yep.
for your team if your sales team can sell properly.
Yeah, Sean was laughing at me. I have this buzzword that's ingrained in my brain, incremental revenue.
Yeah, but it's
Who doesn't want incremental revenue?
Yeah, but to me, it's bigger than that. And the opportunity and the example. I think it is going to, for me, and this is where I would love your feedback. I've been, I guess, vetting this idea with a bunch of digital folk, a bunch of folk in the sponsorship partnership space to say, look, please poke holes. Please challenge me on the model. I wanted to be challenged because I want to find the thing that works, right? And what the thing that I keep coming up with is the sponsorship people that aren't digitally savvy and don't quite know how to sell stick with the stuff that they know. They know signage, they know hospitality, they know game day activations, those kind of things. So that's what they've been selling, and they don't know digital, so they've done it piecemeal. Selling of a post, selling of a tweet, selling of an Instagram shot, that kind of thing, without it being completely integrated. And that's why you're getting this inconsistent approach. Whereas if we go back to the rate card, if you actually apply even a base rate card with really low numbers, right, which I don't think you should do. I'm really a big believer in, valuing your content. And if you've gone and given someone 50 Facebook posts, then you should be able to go back and say, well, we should be charging them out at 2, 3, 4, 5K a post. Therefore, if we've done 20, that media valuation piece is 100K, right? Straight there. And yes, doesn't mean they pay it, but at least when you're saying, well, this is valued at 100K over the year, you have to at least pay this. So that's where the rate card equation kicks in. But you've got to draw a line in the sand and say, this is what we're charging.
Yeah.
At least putting that out in the market. Yes, there can be, discounts and it can be brought down, but at least you've got to give some premium number to what the assets that you're doing. And the more tightly integrated it can be, the more compelling it is.
Absolutely. Don't discount the power of your fans, right? Sports fans are some of the most passionate. So make sure you're throwing something out there that's that's going to work for your fans and come together in a nice ideation for that campaign. Don't just slap a logo on something and post it.
Well, it's especially the campaign thing. I've sort of ranted and raved a little bit of, the days of just firing up the 25 words or less woofu form, right? That just says, "Hey fans, fill out." I was like, you said it before around junk emails. Those things attract junk emails. So not getting the social profile, which is, a stronger profile. But the fans don't want to fill out 25 words or less. You're only getting the competition intros, right? Whereas if you can do something that says, I want to put my vote in on the best goal in a tug of war, or I want to have my say on the best moment like the Redskins have done, or I want to have my choice of, the 100-point, who's going to score the 100-point, the stuff that the Trailblazers done. That's the cool thing is.
Make it emotional, right? Whatever ties your fan passion. And that's kind of the key. For us, tying back to data, it's for us, it's about behavior, understanding the fan, because we believe the future of digital is personalization.
Yep.
And this is... Sports Geek Campaigns is laying the ground floor of what you can do in data 2, 3, 4 years from now after you've built out these great partnerships in your sponsorship. And why not get sponsors to pay you to collect fan data?
Well, and that's the thing. I think there's a couple of trends that we're seeing, and I think it's going to it's hitting sport already, and it will hit it further. Digital has a really has a really high bar in terms of ROI, and it should, right? I don't walk away from that. I'm happy to have the ROI because digital's trackable.
Absolutely,
right? It's more trackable than a whole bunch of other opportunities that are sold. And I think more and more sponsors and coming into market will be performance based. They'll be wanting data, more definitive numbers on data, and acquisition. And so, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners do the same. Like when I go to a game, I look at all the activations and things from that point of view. And so I look at a game day activation, and, a recent game I went to, they had an activation on the concourse that had, people taking part in jumping up and down and stuff. And so it was at one corner of the stadium on the outside. So maybe, and again, if I'm running the numbers on how much it costs and what was the return of it, I look at it like, and I try to compare it to digital. And I go, well, 50,000 people went to the game. Maybe 25% of them walked past that corner. I'm going very generous, walked past that corner of the venue. Mm-hmm. So that means 12,000 people potentially saw it before the game. And that might be saw it as in walked by, or saw it as in stopped and participated, or stopped and actually saw the logo of the sponsor, which is, right, 12,000. And then at halftime, they did a halftime activation where they put it up on the big screen and try to engage the whole stadium. So it's a halftime. Half the fans are going to the bar, to the food, right? So again, maybe, and again, I think I'm being generous.
You're really generous.
Half the crowd saw it and potentially were engaged with it, maybe. So maybe 12,000 people saw it twice, and maybe 20,000, 25,000 people saw it once. No data was captured. So it's literally just a bit of an engagement play. Whereas if someone says to me, oh, can you make sure 25,000 of our fans see this campaign? Sure, no problem.
How many times do you want that?
Exactly. And can you make sure that this piece of content is being seen by these people? Obviously, no problems.
Can we create a series on it and make sure that they see it over and over again over the next 3 weeks?
So that's where the content person in me and working with the content, it was like, oh, cool, we can do a video series that's brand activated, brand content piece, or that's brought to you by, and then that potentially weaves into a campaign that the fans enter and have some more fun voting on their favorite player or favorite play or whatever. Again, it doesn't matter what it is, but the idea fits in. That kind of thing. And you can quite easily say, yeah, cool, we can double all of those numbers.
Oh, it baffles me in what those activations cost and what it could be used for digital and what types of results they could get instead.
Yeah, so I'm not saying, hey, get rid of all game day activations. No. I'm just saying have
make them more integrated.
Yeah, exactly. Get them integrated and say, well, this is what's happening. And yes, the sponsor might be happy to be paying their brand activation agency to do that work. But how about you double down on it? How about you create a digital campaign on top of it that extends to, you know what, the 300,000 people that weren't in the stadium that day because your team's not performing, or it was a cold day, or it was a poor time slot, or whatever. All the rest they didn't. And then that campaign, and this is where the integration piece fits in. I want to integrate with the game day, with the big screen, with EDM, and to say this is how it all works together. And effectively, your team starts building out this agency mentality. So for me, that's the opportunity that you can go and put these campaigns, and that's sort of a little bit of a insight into the ideation process. Like I will just go, well, how can we get more money out of that sponsor? And then, once the sponsorship team knows, that type of campaign is worth this, and that sponsor is looking for that kind of stuff, they can start pulling in those plays out of their playbook, put it in their pitch, and then once they say, yep, we're good to go, it's simply call us and say, yep, we're good to go on this type of campaign. We'll give you the instructions, we'll get the lead time that we need, we'll get all the info off you, and there's nothing more for the team to do. So that's why I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about the relationship that, extending it further from a, Sports Geek and Tradable Bits point of view. And then seeing what teams can do. Because the main thing is, and I go through this pitch with a few people in this, and they go, well, how much it costs? And I reply, how much money do you want to make? Right? Which is a flip. It's a flip of the model. Like we're not going to come back and say, hey, go sell it. You know the price. You'll make money every time. And so it's a bit of a reframe of, again, even my offer. My offer's always been, a consulting fee for how I'm helping you. So it's going to be interesting to see how the market accepts it.
Absolutely. I think it's a compelling offer. We've talked to a few people as a sounding board and definitely hit some salient points in different organizations. And, from a sponsorship side, saying, we can generate more profit. From a content and digital side, seeing how, we can help them from a resource standpoint. So I'm really excited to see what we can do in Australia, in North America, globally, all over the place.
And the thing is, because we're in a mood of giving away free, I feel like Oprah, right? I feel like Oprah now. I'm just giving away so much stuff. The way that we've structured it is once your sponsorship team goes, oh, this is what we do, this is how we sell it. Once they've sold more than 10 campaigns, they get the license from a Tradable Bits point of view, so they can be running their own campaigns in pure fan engagement pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of opportunities to do things that aren't as grandiose, like doing anything from like a quiz at the bottom of your article that ties back to whatever was in that article to just engage a fan, or something along the lines of a tug of war, like voting this or that. Just something that's timely every week.
And the thing is, so one, it's that they get access to the full suite. And again, there's a bunch of, we're skipping over terms and conditions and those kind of things. But the idea is you're in that sales mode. But my thing is once your sales team knows how to sell it, and that they make money every time they sell it, that even those smaller campaigns will become sponsored campaigns that they say, yeah, we want to do that. And we want fans every Friday night to enter that competition because it gets a richer data picture across our whole suite. And then there's potentially some options around, the way that you guys are doing the ad stuff. And so this is the stuff that, your ad services team and some of the success that they're having from a ticket sales point of view, in diving into that data and how do they sell more tickets, both, because you've got the experience in the sports side with your Ticketmaster partnerships, but also the stuff that you're doing in the music festivals and selling a boatload of tickets. Like that's the opportunity that is a sort of an add-on to the whole equation. Like you said, we're setting the ground framework of, hey, this is all the data and this is what your fan base looks like. And then your ad team can come in and go, hey guys, you know what we can do? We can roll this type of campaign out.
Yeah, the neat thing about that is obviously all our experience in entertainment and in music, seeing all the layer of how you can mash up social data and purchase data and ticketing, and how you can really understand a user profile and segments of people that are very interested in, this artist, so that you can better personalize your ads to drive more ticket sales for them. We've seen fantastic results in our different music festivals. Bonnaroo case study, we saw 147 times ROI. It was through the roof. Governor's Ball, 60 times ROI. And we're starting to work with some college teams, helping them with their ticket sales and things like that too. So really about getting deeper into the level of data, and especially coming out of Seat, talking to a lot of data people. There a lot of teams really going down the road of doing a data warehouse and integrating a lot of other pieces. But there's all the social data that is really hard to ingest. So Tradable Bits actually fits in as a really nice engagement layer on top. And that's where always the campaigns and fan engagement stuff has always been the key window to starting to collecting that fan data, creating the social data, mashing it up, and being more intelligent. So the BI guys actually will really like what you have underlying here as well.
And that's the option. I mean, the opportunity for mine is seeing how you can sell those campaigns and where it can sell. But if you're just, hey guys, we want to give this a go, we want to run some cool campaigns, we just want to do it for ourselves to get some data, this model works. Like, we can happily walk you through the model and say, yeah, we can do 3 campaigns. This is what it'll cost. We'll do the execution. And you know what? After those 3 campaigns, you'll have a whole bunch of data. I just think there's an opportunity to actually sell that to some sponsors. Now we know different people have different rights. So the next steps, if people are asking, because please ask us questions. So hit me up in Slack, or tweet me, or send me an email, or reach out to Lenny. If you've got any questions, say, if we have not explained it, please call me out on, hey, you haven't explained it well, because we're happy to keep pushing out more content. There'll be some more content that comes out as a result of these couple of days in Vancouver. But you'll be able to go to sportsgeekcampaigns.com, have a look. There'll be a few different things there, but literally fill out the form and book in a time, and we'll have a chat. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Lenny?
No, I think, hit us up on Twitter. We're both pretty active, at Lenny Go.
All the same in the Sports Biz Slack. Lenny's in there and been a long time contributor. If you're not in there, please join up. We're probably approaching just about to pass 1,100, closing in on 1,200 people in there. We're going to start doing some regular chats and those kind of things. But the main thing is, if you're running a digital department and you're frustrated with what sponsorship is asking you to do, give us a call. Or
if you're in sponsorship and looking at ways to drive more profit and drive more revenue, give us a call too.
Yeah, so it is a bit of an either or. And I think where I'll probably will be playing in early is fixing potentially that digital sponsorship sort of relationship, because I want to make that work. And I've used the term digital divorce counselor a lot on the podcast, and that's where I have played. I think this fits that piece, because we help the sponsorship teams and the partnership teams and the commercial teams understand how to sell it, but then also how to integrate the great content and the great engagement that the digital teams are getting on social, and weaving those two together. Yeah. And that's the key to get those two working. So the digital team, one, is seeing more revenue come in for the work that they're being done. And so they're seen as a revenue source in the organisation, not a money pit. They're a big cost centre. It's like, well, no, they've done this bit of content, this bit of content, this bit of content that's tied to that sponsor that's bringing in this revenue. I really want to see digital get the kudos it deserves for the content it's developing. And I just want to make it easier for the sponsorship teams to sell.
Exactly. And I guess one more thing, if you're a sponsor and you want your teams to do a better job of giving you better ROI on whatever you're doing, tell them to talk to us too.
I'm happy. Yeah, it is a bit of a three-sided game from a digital sponsorship and the sponsors, because we'll be serving all of those partners with the fan at the heart, right? If the fan's not going to like it, it's not going to work. And so, we've got the tool in place from the tech point of view. Hopefully, the brain, in this case, mine can help you get the right campaigns and the right ideas. And this is where I'll be leveraging, the people I know and what's working in different parts of the world. And the good thing is, the more of these campaigns we do, we'll know what some of the tweaks that work really well, but also leveraging the cool content, because I think that's the under-realized piece at the minute, that there's cool content being developed that isn't appropriately valued. If we tie it to a campaign, it'll be easier for the sponsorship teams to sell.
Absolutely.
You can leave me a message. You can call me. You go to sportsgeekcampaigns.com, or you can contact Lenny. Our focus will be both here in the North American market and Australia, but also not forgetting friends in Europe and the UK. Tackling this as a global piece. I will be racking up the frequent flyer miles over the next 12 to 18 months, because I do think there'll be a lot in the sponsorship sales sort of space, but it will be a matter of seeing how the product evolves and really what the market wants.
Yeah, it's super exciting. We've been so happy to have you up here in Vancouver, Sean.
Well, thank you very much, and I will talk to you soon.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thanks again to Lenny Goh, Lenny Goh on Twitter, and also in the Sports Biz Slack. So thank you very much for your Canadian hospitality, Lenny, and also thank you for your support in the Sports Biz Slack channel. So the question for the podcast really is, what are your thoughts? What do you think? You can go to sportsgeekcampaigns.com to book in a call with me. That's all you need to do. Are you having struggles with your campaigns or your sponsor campaigns? Is that disconnect, that digital divorce counsellor that I've spoken about previously? Do you need that assistance? To go through the steps, it's really easy. You go to sportsgeekcampaigns.com, book in a call. I'm happy to take calls and talk to people what their situation is, because it's going to be different. Some are going to be more advanced in integrating with their sponsorship team, and some are going to be a long way away. And I've helped teams in both spaces. Book in a call and let's have a chat about where you are. I think the real opportunity is that money that your sponsors are spending with digital agencies. I think that's the money you want to tackle, and that's the easiest money to go after to begin with. So step one is really talking with you and your digital team, or you and your sponsorship team. I can come from either side to understand your product, and do you know your product, your platform, your audience, what opportunities are there, and how can we tie that content piece into the campaigns. Then step two is sort of reviewing some of your sponsors and what they're doing in the digital space. Is there an opportunity to pitch to your sponsor that you can present an alternative option and see if they might want to take that on board? Once we can sort of identify those opportunities, we can then start building out that digital campaign playbook. I would talk about, the boxes, building out those boxes, those campaigns, so your sales team can go out and sell them, which is the next step. The last step is they go sell the campaigns. And once they say, hey, we've sold this campaign and this campaign and this campaign, then it's simply just a simple call to us, or an email or a tweet or a DM in Slack to say, hey, we've sold this campaign, we need it executed. And then that's when my team and Lenny's team come in and work with your team to get all that done, approved by your team, executed, and all the reporting done around that to make sure you've got happy sponsors, which is what we want. So I'm super excited to work more with US clients, and I'll be traveling a lot more in the next 12 months. So don't think, Sean's only in Australia, you can't help us. That no longer applies. If you need my help to grow your digital revenue for your team, I'm more than happy to hop on a plane and help make that happen. So please go to Sports Geek Campaigns. Even if you can't or aren't thinking of it or aren't in that space, I'd love your feedback. I'd love your feedback on the concept, what you thought of this podcast, the fit, the service I'm putting into the industry, and how it fits. It's very much going to be a work in progress, and it's going to develop and be refined over the next 6 to 12 months. But the fact that we've already done it a couple of times with a few different clients shows me anyway that we've done the minimum viable product, and it's there and it's available. And I do think it's the last getting the sponsorships guys to better understand digital is the last frontier. I think the digital teams obviously understand the opportunities. I think the ticketing and the data folk are also well advanced in understanding the space. I think now it's the last but not least is how to appropriately sell sell digital, but then integrate leads and campaigns into that piece. And that's where Sports Geek Campaigns is being pitched in that spot. So really excited over the next 12 to 18 months on how that goes. Until next episode, you can always contact me at Sean Callanan on all platforms, and especially on SportsBiz Slack. Please join us now over getting close to 1,200 people on the SportsBiz Slack, or email Sean at sportsgeekhq.com. Until next episode, you've been listening to the Sports Geek Podcast. My name is Sean Callanan. Thanks for listening.
Join over 1,000 sports business executives in SportsBiz Slack. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Slack.
Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes.
Find out how to drive between $8,000 and $30,000 in profit for each digital campaign you sell sponsors. Check out sportsgeekcampaigns.com. Just like Jimmy Butler, you can call Sean anytime at 614-407-0407-200.